Today on With the First Pick, we're talking to 49ers General Manager John Lynch. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's former Titans GM Ran Carthon. And Ran, just a quick refresher for our viewers here. It's been it was a busy few weeks back in 2017 because according to the old Google machine here, 49ers hired John on January 29th. Then on February 6th, they hired some guy named Kyle Shanahan. And 11 days after that, John hired some guy named Ran Carthon. And then 2 years later, you guys were in the Super Bowl. So that was quite the turnaround in San Francisco. Happened pretty quickly there. John's obviously still in the 49ers. You're not doing podcasts with me. But I'll let you take over because you have a relationship with John. And I'm excited to get into this thing.
All right. Well, first, I just want to flash my shirt here from when my man JL went into the Hall of Fame. So I had to honor my guy. But JL, what we like to do here, I like to give a good intro of our guests. So here's my intro for you. NFL Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Bucks Ring of Honor, Denver Broncos Ring of Honor, threw the first pitch in Marlins history. I don't know if you knew that one, Ryan, but he threw the first pitch in Marlins history, and that jersey is in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He was a successful broadcaster and just one of the greatest humans I know. He's an overall winner in life. And to use Ryan Wilson's quote, he's living right. So welcome to the With the First Pick podcast, John Lynch. Appreciate you. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate it.
Oh, man, it's great to be with you guys. Ryan, the guy you're with is he's special to us. He's special to me. His family is, and Ran, we're forever grateful for your contributions here. You came right at the beginning and helped form this thing into to what we are, who we are. You're a big part of our culture, a big part of our brain trust, I guess, back in the day when we were putting the thing together, and we miss you.
Nah, man, it's one of the greatest times in my life, and I always consider myself a Niner. I was just there in the building. You guys were on vacation, but I was just there in the building a couple of weeks ago, just moseying around, and it just felt like home. It felt like being at home, and so thank you guys for that opportunity.
Hey, Ran, before you ask your first question, I'm going to ask John this. So you didn't know Ran before you hired him, John, I don't believe. So I'm curious how you came to hire him so shortly after you got the job and sort of knowing who Ran was and what he would bring to the table.
Yeah, I'm thinking back, Kyle obviously came from the Atlanta Falcons, a stint with the Atlanta Falcons, and Kyle was around Ran in that capacity. Ran came highly recommended. I'm close with Peyton Manning, and that's one of the people I called, and I said, Peyton, tell me about this guy, Ran Carthon. And he said, could always trust him. And he said a lot of other great things, but knew the folks at Atlanta pretty well. Everyone spoke really highly. I remember as I was looking for a pro guy, I was new to this, and so I'm calling people who you have great respect for. I called Bill Belichick, and I said, what do you look for in a pro head of pro personnel? And Bill broke it down like you can imagine. Didn't go into some big soliloquy, but it was like, basically he should be able to tell you anybody in the league and give you a one or two liner, make a great comparison and don't overthink it. And so, we went and interviewed Ran, and we could tell he was a fit right away. And like I said before, he ended up being a huge part of building the thing and into what we've become.
Nah, man, I appreciate that. So I want to jump right into it, JL. You and Kyle have become the model of this GM head coach collaboration, throughout the entire league. And everyone around the league, when they're looking to hire a GM, they're looking to hire a head coach, they're looking to recreate what you guys have there in San Francisco. Can you speak to how you've gone about creating, developing, and maintaining that relationship with Kyle to keep you guys in lockstep?
Yeah. I think I'll approach that from a couple of different perspectives. First of all, just the reality, Kyle and I really enjoy each other. Our families enjoy each other. So I don't think that's a must. You don't have to be best friends. There has to be a healthy respect, though. And, I go back to my time as a broadcaster, as a player in this league, and I played 15 years. I played for two organizations, really played 3 weeks for the Patriots. So maybe you can count three organizations, but you really kind of have an outlook from those two perspectives. I knew how they did things in Tampa when it was really bad, when it got good. And then I knew in Denver how they did things. A broadcaster, I was doing games. And so you'd go out every Thursday, you'd be in a building Friday and Saturday trying to do your preparation. And it was a really good perspective of the successful organizations and the ones that weren't so successful. And it was really clear that when you were at the successful organizations, I could be in the office of the general manager and ask him, hey, how are things going? And I could later go to the head coach and you'd get the same messaging. You'd get it in a different way, but they were saying the same things. In the perennial poor organizations, you would get from the GM, we got all the players. They're just not being coached. And then you'd go to the coach and the coach would say, man, if I just had players. And like, it doesn't take a brain surgeon. The people that were together, that were like-minded, that were going in the same direction, were really successful organizations. The best. I think all the time of our division rival, the Seahawks back then. They were rolling, and it was Pete Carroll and John. Very different personalities, but I could go in John's office. He'd say one thing, and the message was very similar to that of what Pete Carroll was preaching. Not saying they agreed on everything, but they were together. They were like this, and the poor organizations just didn't have that. Kyle and I really enjoy each other. We challenge each other. I think that's something that you have to do. And it doesn't, when you say, hey, they're collaborative, there's great cohesion, it doesn't mean you agree on everything, but you have a process where you arrive like, all right, here's where we're going to go. And I think challenging each other is part of that. And when you do that, though, at the top, then I think it permeates throughout your whole building. And that's something that we're really excited to have 9 years later, that we still have that collaboration. A big part of our culture, Ran, we talk about having each other's back. That's part of the 49er way. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is Kyle and I, we have each other's back, good or bad, we have each other's back. And that's something that we're excited to continue to have.
Yeah, Ryan, when he's talking about having your back, we have IGYB, and we have that on shirts. I got your back. And so that, like he said, that permeates throughout the building. And I actually still have a bunch of my shirts with IGYB on it. So that's speaking home. But you kind of mentioned it. You guys are in lockstep and you challenge each other. What are those conversations like when you don't necessarily agree? Like, what is that process like when you're trying to work through that?
I go back to year one. Ryan was talking. It takes you way back, when I was hired, and then we had a good idea. Kyle was going to be the guy, and we went and got Kyle, and we started putting it all together. I remember talking to those organizations, some of the people. I mean, that's the one thing. There is a great community in this, even though we all could compete. There are people you have great respect, you've known over the years. I've been around the league for a long time, so you call on some of those people. And I remember the Ravens at my first league meeting, the owners meetings, and I saw John Harbaugh, in a coffee shop, and I got so much respect for Ozzie Newsome and what he did. There were some parallels being a former player and coming up that way, and they're just a well-run organization, and they certainly were at the time. And I told John, I said, like, hey, Kyle and I, John, the best compliment I could pay you guys is that we're really trying to emulate in many ways what you guys have done in Baltimore and the way you guys work together. And, so much so that, like, hey, if we don't agree on a player, we're going to throw them out. And like, I got my latte, John got his coffee. I was leaving. I was going back to my room, and John runs down. Hey, John, I wanted to tell you one more thing. It stuck with me what you said. He said, like, I would challenge you, because this is one thing Ozzie and I do. Don't just throw the player out if you can't agree on them. If you're passionate about a player, it's your job to sell Kyle on why that player is a fit for the Niners, and vice versa. If Kyle believes in a player, but you're not quite there, well, see if Kyle can get you there, because if you're just throwing them out, you're missing out on a lot of players. And I thought that was incredible advice. And it's something that we've tried to operate under. If Kyle's passionate about a player and I don't quite see it, well, then he's really good at selling. He's got a great idea of what he's looking for. I try to do the same. If there's a player I really like, or our scouting staff really likes, I try to communicate to Kyle, here's what we see in him. Here's how he fits us. And here's why I think he'd be a great addition. And we see if we can reach a consensus. Now, if at the end you don't have consensus, then that's not a fit for us, and you move on. And that's been kind of how we've tried to operate.
Yeah, and you've talked about the players and you guys going through your process. Like in your tenure as GM, like the organization has hit on a ton of draft picks and a ton of free agent signings. But in my opinion, nothing stands out more to me than your ability to hit on those day three picks. Can you talk to us about the strategy of the process that's led to so many hits, as you can see here on this graphic, of how many all those guys have started games? You have some all pros in there, you have pro bowlers in there. Can you talk to us about that process? But then also the very last guy here at the bottom, Brock Purdy, you guys just got the deal done to lock him up for the foreseeable future. Can you also hit on that and why that was important to get Brock's deal done?
Yeah, so the late round success, I think it goes to that cohesion, having each other's back. Because when you do that, number one, and number two, Ran, that when we got here, I think one thing we did, we went to great lengths to define what is a Niner, who do we want to be as a team, and more specifically, offensively, defensively, special teams. What are the traits at every position? And not just quickly, but let's be really thorough. And those things evolve. What you want from your F receiver may evolve over time. We had Dante Pettis early on tabbed, and we thought he'd be a great fit. And Dante was a great fit here. He brought a lot in terms of separation ability, but we saw that the game people were getting more grabby, and you had to have the power to escape that kind of stuff. Well, thus was born Deebo Samuel, and kind of that thick, powerful guy that there's no way you could grab him, and he couldn't get away from you. And then Kyle ended up. So I think what I'm saying, when you have a great idea of what you want at each position, what you're looking for exactly, and you're in lockstep from both the personnel and coaching standpoint, and then the thing, I think you surround yourself with great people, and you let them go to work. But when you have that sense of collaboration from the top, and that's all the way from the owner on down, that's where that you hit pay dirt, is when scouts and coaches are working together. You identify, and like our pro department was heavily involved in the back of the board, identifying the right players along with our R&D. So everybody's a part of the process. And when you do that, you unearth a lot of players if you have a good idea of what you're looking for. And I think that's been part of our success there. And part of it, maybe we're not that smart. Why are we waiting so long on guys like George Kittle and Brock Purdy? And there's a little bit of luck involved. I mean, the fact that nobody else picked Brock Purdy until that last pick, there's some level of good fortune there. And but I think to Brock, a guy that you helped mentor, Steve Slowick, was a road scout there, and he used to go through that area. And Steve had a great feel on Brock Purdy. He had heard Matt Campbell talk. He had seen it with his own eyes. And then all of a sudden, Steve brings him to the group, and then Brian Greasy and him collaborate. And it was during the, those guys, it was the Zooms, because we were in the back end of COVID, and after every Zoom, they came back more passionate about this kid. And then it gets in the lap of Kyle and I, and all of a sudden we become just as passionate. So that's kind of a snapshot of how and why I think we've had that deal of success. But I think you also know you never have it figured out. You always got to get better. John Gruden used to say it all the time. You never stay the same. You're getting better, you get worse. And so we're constantly trying to push ourselves. And we want to do well at every pick, not just the guys in the back end.
Yeah, and so can you follow up in the Purdy deal? There was a bunch of speculation about whether it was going to get done. And I know how you operate, how you go about business. You were optimistic about getting the deal done the entire time. Can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of getting that deal done and why Brock Purdy is the guy to lead this 49ers organization?
Yeah, I think the first part of it is to know that he is your guy. And that obviously, when you're making that big of a decision, that's everybody in that organization. Jed York better feel really good about that. And Jed lets us do our work. But when you're talking your quarterback of your franchise, like, that's everybody's got to be all in. And that was a really quick, think tank. We all got together, and, we all felt passionately that Brock's the guy that we want to build around, and we want as our guy behind center for the foreseeable future and hopefully the rest of his career. And that it didn't take long. Brock's done so much for us from the day he entered, from the day he was the number 4 guy. And I remember being at practice, and it's a great illustration. There's a lot of old school NFL guys will say to guys coming into training camp, don't count your reps, make your reps count. Well, nobody ever painted that picture other than Brock Purdy, because early on in the days of camp, as the last player taken, you're getting 3-4 reps, and it's hard to really shine and make a turn people's heads when you're only getting that many reps. And it's really easy just to play it safe. He didn't play it safe at all. He'd get 3 reps in a practice, and 3 of them he'd get the ball into these small windows, and you're like, man, this dude, is it reckless or is it confidence? And what we found, it was confidence, and he was just and everyone starts looking at each other. When you start getting that look, you like, man, we may have something. Now, did we foresee what Brock would become? No. But things Trey got hurt. And next thing you know, we had brought back Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy got hurt against Miami. And then Brock goes in, and it was Brian Flores. And we all know what Brian Flores, he's going to make life difficult on any quarterback. They were bringing the house on Brock. And I remember one of his early throws, standing in there against that pressure, getting hit in the mouth and delivering a ball to Kittle over the middle. And he didn't blink. And wow, that was impressive. And so Brock's, and then the type of person he is, what he wants to do in our community is just a really easy decision. Our guys love him. Our guys pull behind him. And he's an asset to this organization. And so we were able to get a deal done. His representative, Kyle Shanahan, did a great job. We had good conversations early on, kind of laying out the roadmap, how we wanted to get this done. We arrived at a place where everyone was happy, and we did it. And I thought that was really good for the 49ers.
Yeah, I'll never forget that Miami game. He threw the ball 38 times coming off the bench, had never really played meaningful snaps in the league. And like you said, he didn't blink. So we're going to move into the final question of this portion of the interview, and we're going to close it off with a little rapid fire. But this one here is near and dear to, I think, both of our hearts. And it's about our brother, Reggie Cobb. You played with him, and then you got a chance to work with him. And so our brother, he sadly passed away on April 20th, 2019. And that year at the draft, he was honored, at the draft, and was shown a lot of love throughout the entire league. But to speak volumes of who you are, to honor him, you created the Reggie Cobb Award to honor his legacy as a scout and what he exemplified. Like, why was that important for you to be able to create that award for Reggie?
Well, because Reggie's special. And I knew Reggie when I was a rookie in Tampa in 1993. We weren't a very good organization, but there were guys fighting, and there were good football players. Reggie was one of those, but Reggie was a lot more. Reggie was a guy who'd put his arm around you as a rookie. As you know, Ran, one of the funniest people you've ever been around, and nothing was off limits with Reggie. He was going to call it like he saw it. And he always brought that level of professionalism. He was a really good scout who had a great eye, but he kept that room in check. And, the coolest thing is, this many years later in that draft, when we just went through it, his jersey sits on one of those seats, and we never changed that. We never will. I think Rand's being humble. He's one of the recipients of that award, and that's kind of it's a spirit award. It's somebody who lifts our building, and Reggie did that, and he'll forever be remembered by me and by everybody in this building, and even the ones that weren't here. We let them know who Reggie was and what he was all about, and we carry on that tradition. And he's a special guy, and we miss him dearly.
Absolutely. So this is a portion, we call it on the clock, and we'll make it rapid fire. We know you got to go. And so it's going to be a couple quick questions. First thing that comes to your mind. So the first question is, what is your most memorable play from your playing career?
Oh, boy. Gosh, probably hitting Barry Sanders, because I had made so many of his car commercials, like so many of us did. And you could never line him up and get a great hit. He had a great quality, and I finally got him in that funnel where I had guys on either side, and I got Barry. And Barry later told me at a Pro Bowl, he never said much. He came up and he said, "Hey, John, I wanted to let you know that's the hardest I've ever been hit." And so that was because of that journey I had gone down and him making my life miserable. That was special.
All right. You've played multiple sports. We hit on it in the intro. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest multi-sport athlete of all time?
Oh boy. I'm going to throw an outsider like Jim Brown. And the reason I say that, a lot of people don't know, I like my kids got into lacrosse a little. My son in particular, Jake, did when we were living in Denver. And then out here now, a lot of kids, my daughter dates a lacrosse player, but historians in lacrosse will say he's probably the greatest lacrosse player of all time, like that level. And so I'm going to throw a little outsider in there with Jim Brown. Obviously, as a football player, I talked to people who played it that day and coached it that day, and they just said he was different than everybody else.
What athlete from another sport would you sign if rules didn't matter?
Oh boy. Steph Curry. We're right here and he's clutch, he's class, he's a leader, he's it's just everything you want. And when you talk to the people at the Warriors, the most humble superstar ever.
What is your draft day snack?
Whatever's in the calf, and it's usually really good. They go all out here. We get crab legs, we get everything. So we eat good. Dr. York always brings in some beef jerky from a friend of his, and so a lot of beef jerky as well.
If you could pick a song that best describes you, what song would it be?
Don't Stop Believing, because we came here to do something where 9 years later, we've knocked on the door. We haven't done it. It was the same thing as a player. It took me a while, but we got it done. So that's what we're shooting for.
And the final one, who is 47 Red?
47 Red, I guess, is kind of the alter ego. I'm a pretty mild-mannered guy. I always have been, but on the field, I was something different. Or you put a couple margaritas in my hand, I can get a little energy and have some fun. And so I guess that's 47 Red. Mike Tomlin actually named me that. And everybody had known, but nobody had known about that other guy that would show up on the football field, but no one had ever given a name to it. And I don't know where Mike got that. You'd have to ask Mike, but 47 Red is what he called it, and it stuck.
I think Barry Sanders gave him that name. Passed it on to him. You got anything else, Ran, or you want to wrap it up?
No, I was going to say, man, we know you got to run. I know you got other things lined up. Appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us and be candid with us. I like to end this by saying you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us With the First Pick podcast, and we appreciate you for it.
It's great to be with you, Ran. Great to be with you, Ryan.
Thank you very much, John. This has been great.
Appreciate it, JL.
All right. You guys be well.
All right. Later.